Hello, everybody.
We are live.
Ready?
Let us start with our theme song.
You will. Hang on a minute.
Welcome to the Awakening World, Global Peace Tribe.
What if I were to suggest that you play a key role in the awakening world? And that you are watching this because you have heard the call. We can start right now by opening our hearts and minds. Welcome to the awakening world.
Same source, a powerful love force. We're coming together, hear the call, you are invited. We come from the same source, a powerful love force.
We are a powerful love source. Welcome to the Awakening World. Isn't it exciting to be here together? What are we looking at on the screen? What does it say? Welcome home. I think we need to stop sharing that screen. Okay. Well, there may be some technical glitches this evening because you may have noticed that somebody is missing. For the first time in 3 years, Scott Katamas is otherwise engaged. And we are all stepping in to co-host this evening's show. So I'm Reverend Deborah Moldow. I'm the director of the Evolutionary Leaders of the Source of Synergy Foundation. I probably look familiar to some of you because I've co-hosted with Scott a number of times before, bringing on wonderful visionary members of the Evolutionary Leaders Circle. And our other two hosts tonight who are making this happen are Trish Wright, whom you also know well from many shows that she has co-hosted with Scott. And we have our beloved Omashar, who is a master of all trades. He is a wonderful musician, and he is also handling the tech tonight. So
learning a new trade tonight, I tell you. If anyone's seen Scott at the helm, he's like balancing 20 plates at once. And so
it's taking 3 of us to substitute for him.
Right.
So I just want to start by telling you where Scott is. So some of you may know that he has been asked to host and moderate the Illuminate Film Festival, which is happening right now live in Sedona, Arizona. And they were featured last week on The Awakening World. And tonight, Scott is so excited because he is hosting the world premiere of a film, a brand new documentary called Amma's Way, that is about the hugging saint, Ammachi. And Ammachi's executive director of her worldwide organization has come from India, and Scott is going to be interviewing him this evening. So he said he's going to be in a little room with a computer, and he's hoping he can pop on and join us at some point. But if not, we're going to carry on without him because he is living his mission while we do the show. So welcome everybody, and please do what Scott always asks you to do, which is put in the chat where you're listening from. So if you're here in the Zoom room with us, especially, we welcome you. You are our stalwart members of the Global Peace Tribe who join us live and in person from week to week. And we also welcome all of you who are watching on Facebook, especially on Unify and on all of the more than 100 organizations and individuals who are part of the Sign Network, organized by John and Summerjoy Raymer. So, Trish, did I leave anything out yet besides introducing our fabulous guests?
No, I didn't realize that you were going to just do the whole thing. But hey, welcome to the Awakening World, everyone. Some of you know me from the Awakening World Friday nights, or what used to be called Straight Talk. And I'm so excited that I get to support Scott in what he wants to do and in something really sweet for him and something really sweet for the world. The Illuminate Film Festival has been going on for some time, and I'm really excited that he's out there being awesome. If you haven't checked out the pictures, go to his Facebook page and check them out. So again, welcome to the Awakening World, and we've got amazing people on tonight. Now, you're putting it in, like San Diego, California, we've got Colorado, we've got California, we've got El Salvador tonight. And if you're still thinking about where you are, type it in. And if you come in and join us from out there and wherever you might be, you can always come in to our Zoom room, and I'll type that in, or I'll say it in a minute. And again, if you want to register and join in here, you can go to theglobalpeacetribe.com and come into the Zoom room, and you'll also receive a weekly email with the recordings, previous show, and special offerings or announcements. And when they do another retreat in Sedona, which I've heard it was really amazing, so just insane, sign up there. So Rev Deb, take it away about who you got.
Thank you so much, Trish. And thank you for adding in all the details, because you are a veteran here with the Global Peace Tribe. So we appreciate you beyond words. Thank you. And you all know, I think, those of you who know me know how excited I get when I get to introduce members of the Evolutionary Leaders Circle, who, by the way, includes Scott Katamas. So we have a lot of very sparkling visionaries, and many of them are authors. And tonight's show is special for a few reasons. First of all, we have authors of 3 brand new books. I mean, brand new, hot off the presses. Some are available already. Some are still on pre-order because they're that new. So you're going to be hearing about some really cutting edge books that I think you're going to be very excited about. Another thing that I'm really juiced about tonight is the theme. So the theme of tonight's show and this whole weekend of Evolutionary Leaders is calling Team Light as we co-create our future. And one of the authors that we have with us this evening is the one who's responsible for that theme, and that is Laura George of the Oracle Institute and the Peace Pentagon. And Laura George is the author of a brand new book called The Light. It's the 3rd in a trilogy from her, and it is fabulous. It's just fabulous. So I can't wait to give Laura the floor so she can tell you about what her book is about and why this is truly the theme of the show. So I am delighted to welcome Laura. And we also have authors Will Keepin and Cynthia Briggs. They are a couple. That's why you're seeing them together. And their work is on gender reconciliation. And yes, Trish, you may well applaud that. And I know that Laura applauds that too. I love bringing the 3 of you on together because that is a big topic in Laura's book is how we cannot go on to the next level of our evolution as a species without healing this wound between the genders. So we're looking forward to hearing from you. And then we have another evolutionary leader who has a new book out, and that is Bob Atkinson. Bob Atkinson is particularly dear to my heart because he is one of my co-editors on our Evolutionary Leaders book that you've heard me speak about, Our Moment of Choice. But he also has written many books of his own, and he has a new one called A New Story of Wholeness, an experiential guide for connecting the human family. So, wow, we're going to hear about these brand new books tonight. And I want to also introduce another evolutionary leader who is with us. Her name is Dr. Mama Ivy, or Shadia, or Ivy Hilton, whatever name you know her by. She is a voice that brings us to new levels of consciousness. So, Dr. Ivy, we are so excited to have you with us tonight. So thank you so much. And we have two other musicians with us. So we have Lakshmi Del Sesto, who is new to me, and I can't wait to hear her music because Scott just raves about her. And we have Omashar, and we all know how inspired his music is. So look at this wonderful feast we're going to enjoy together this evening. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for being with us. Okay. I left out. I left out somebody because she's not here in person. And that is Kasia Sequoia Slavner. Now, you may not have heard that name before because she is quite young. She is in our Evolutionary Leaders Circle. I believe that the reason that she's not here with us this evening is because she's at the climate conference that's starting in Egypt this week. But she has given us a beautiful interview with Scott, and we are going to be among the first to see a preview of the film that she is working on called 1.5 Degrees of Peace. So you can tell just by the title that this brilliant young woman is linking climate change to peace, which I wish that the leaders of our world would do today. So that'll be a special treat later on. Okay, Trish, did I catch everybody here?
You caught everyone. Great job.
All right. Well, let us jump in with a song. So let us hear from Lakshmi Del Sesto with the first musical offering of the evening. Thank you so much, Lakshmi.
It requires us to know what we want from this life. If we falter in our dreams, if we doubt the path that seems the best to be expressed as this life, we might lose our chance to live life the enlightened way. But how would we know how to choose the experiences divine intelligence would play? How will we know to choose to ride gonna do? What you gonna do? What you gonna do with your freedom? La-da-da, la-da-da, la-da. Ooh-hoo-hoo. So what you gonna do with your freedom? Your freedom. What you gonna do? I choose to lose control in the presence of staggering beauty. I choose to be stripped of what is unreal, to become what is real. I am nothing I can believe. I am a state of living beauty. I am a state of living beauty. Living beauty. Living beauty. Because I choose. So what you gonna do with your freedom? Your freedom. Your freedom. Your freedom. Your freedom. Your freedom. What you gonna do? What you gonna do? What you gonna do?
Wow.
Woohoo!
Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you so
Let's
much.
give
Thank you
Lakshmi
for-
a little love
Yeah,
here.
little love for Lakshmi. Some twinklings happening, please.
And for Omashar for mastering the spotlighting.
Oh, I tell you, it's quite fun. The sense of power is not a lot, but hey.
Well, it's an honor to be counted amongst all of these wonderful luminaries. Thank you for having me.
Oh, we're
Yeah,
delighted to have
fantastic.
you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for lifting us all up. What are we going to do with our freedom?
Mhm.
No, we probably have, every one of us, more freedom than people have had for ever in the history of the human race.
Yes.
And what are we going to do with it? Global Peace Tribe.
I know what I'm doing with it. My freedom and my privilege to make it more available for everyone else.
Amen to that.
And it sounds like Lakshmi is doing the same with her voice and letting her vibration radiate through the hearts and the ears and the souls of everyone who's watching tonight and everybody else who's knows of you. Maybe we can make that a little bit grander. Would it be time now?
Maybe later.
You let me know.
Thank you, Lakshmi.
Omashar is keeping us on track this evening.
Well,
So we're going to hear
slightly.
from Lakshmi again a little bit later, and that'll be your
Yes.
time, Trish, to
Yes.
let us
Thank you.
know
See you
how we
soon.
can support her.
See you, Lakshmi.
Beautiful. So it's a good question. What are we going to do with our freedom? And I know someone who has some answers for us. So I am very excited to introduce to you Reverend Laura George. She is executive director of the Oracle Institute, an educational charity in Independence, Virginia. And she's an attorney, which is it's very interesting that she's both an attorney and she is passionately engaged in the nonprofit world. So this really shows up in her work. The Oracle Institute is a think tank that studies the nexus between religion, politics, human rights, and conscious evolution. It has a spirituality school, a publishing house, a peace practice, global peace practice. And it's headquartered at a very special place, which you can see behind Laura on her, on her screen, called the Peace Pentagon. Okay, who out there is in favor of us having a peace pentagon? I'm for it. And that's a training and retreat center for social justice campaigns. And it also serves the Valley of Light community in the Oracle Temple, because Laura's deeply spiritual on top of all of that. And she has written the Oracle Institute trilogy: The Truth, The Love, and The Light. Now, I, who have an organization called the Garden of Light, was very interested to read The Light as soon as she sent me an advance copy. Thank you, Laura. And all I could say about it was, this is the book I've been waiting for. So let's hear about The Light from Reverend Laura George.
Well, good evening, everyone. I am so honored to be here, and I am coming to you from a town called Independence, Virginia, and that is the Peace Pentagon. So Virginia has two Pentagons. Tonight, I do want to talk about the new book because it mirrors the theme. I'm going to share a screen because I've done a presentation that I want to share with you. Okay, I think you can see it now. So I'm going to start by introducing you to a new term that I use, which is called the God game. And I use this term to describe the inherent polarity of the earth plane and humanity's yearning to merge with God in the ethereal plane. I submit to you that this is a universal calling, a primordial desire to go home. This yearning to return to the light is embedded in the evolutionary impulse. Consequently, both Team Light and Team Dark seek the same goal. The only difference is how they play the God game. Team Light is willing to play by the rules of evolution, as well as the moral imperative to play fairly and achieve a victory for everyone. Team Light plays the God game like Green Tara, the bodhisattva who pledged to reincarnate until all sentient beings are liberated. Team Dark, on the other hand, wants to win the God game so badly they will do anything. They fight the evolutionary impulse, they will lie, they will cheat, and even kill other members of the game in their manic attempt to get home. For Team Dark, the ends justify the means. But I believe there's a default of the universe that favors Team Light, if ever just so slightly. Despite an inherent life-death life cycle, the overall trajectory of the God game is toward greater truth, love, and light. As Martin Luther King said, the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. In my book, there's a chapter entitled Gandhi versus Hitler, in which I implore Team Light to learn the law of polarity. In today's crazy post-truth world, it is reasonable to ask, did Gandhi or Hitler leave the more lasting legacy? Sadly, some New Age teachings gloss over the fact that we live in a dual and dangerous earth plane. Fear is not the opposite of love, and this is an important point because we cannot transmute what we don't understand, nor can we access higher realms in the ethereal plane with naivete. Team Light must master the law of polarity if we seek to shift the paradigm. Team Light and Team Dark have been at odds since the advent of separation 14 billion years ago. Evolution is a slow process, though consciousness is now evolving exponentially, as evidenced by the spiritual paradigms humanity has crafted to date. The first paradigm was the period of primordial unity. Depending on your belief system, duality can be attributed to the Big Bang, Lucifer's rebellion, or a tedious ascent up the spectrum of consciousness. Regardless, the earth plane became dualistic eons ago. In the second paradigm, early humans worshiped the Great Mother, though cultures were an admix of matriarchal, egalitarian, and patriarchal traditions, such as the Kogi people of Colombia who visited Oracle campus. The Kogi people worship a Luna, a female creator, but they operate within a male-dominated pecking order. In the third paradigm, humans began to infuse the Godhead with the law of gender, but in a magical manner. The gods and goddesses they created ranged in temperament from our most glorious to our most fearsome. Yet the highest gods were male, so it would be incorrect to call this paradigm gender balance. Next came the fourth paradigm, when a Hebrew tribe rediscovered monotheism. However, rather than imagining the Godhead as a single entity comprised of both masculine and feminine energies, a grave theosophical error was made, the suppression of the divine feminine. This epic of daddy deism has achieved impressive economic and technological growth, fueled by what sages call creative energy, but it has suffered from a woeful lack of feminine values, what mystics call wisdom energy. Oracle's trickle-down deity theory posits that our view of the Godhead necessarily defines our worldview. Thus, the negative side effect of perceiving the Godhead as a male force with a male heir in the case of Christianity has been the subjugation of women. In sum, at the dawn of the fifth spiritual paradigm, our technology exceeds our capacity to wisely manage it. Therefore, if we want to shift the paradigm, we must update the Godhead by assimilating the most elementary of the metaphysical laws, the law of gender. The Oracle spectrum chart shows 9 stages of human development. I call this chart Maslow on steroids because it expands on the highest level of the Maslow pyramid, self-actualization. This newer model, also known as spiral dynamics, has been in use for decades. In fact, I took a class in it in the 1980s at college. This map helps us evaluate ourselves and society. It also helps us understand how close we are to the tipping point into the fifth spiritual paradigm. We don't have time to go into the chart tonight, but there's a chapter devoted to the spectrum of consciousness, as well as integral theory, the more complex model developed by evolutionary leader Ken Wilber. For now, just realize that the Earth plane is populated with vast and varied levels of human development, everything from barbarians to Buddhas. Now here's the good news. There are more new humans on the planet than ever before. In the light, I define a new human as someone who has reached stage 6 or second tier in the spectrum of consciousness. People who have a world-centric perspective and value pluralism. New humans express compassion, reverence for Mother Earth, and new concepts of deity that merge science and spirituality. In short, new humans are conscious players in the God game. And if you're watching this show, you're probably a new human. This is a grand achievement, but it comes with responsibilities. It is your job to help old humans overcome their fear of the future and follow the light. Now for the bad news. It's going to be difficult to enter the fifth spiritual paradigm. Why? Because we're living through the tail end of a great cusp, the period of intense chaos that always precedes a major paradigm shift. Great cusps can last thousands, hundreds of years, and they're very dangerous. During the last great cusp, Jesus walked the earth, the Roman Empire collapsed, and humans were thrown in the medieval dark ages. There's only one force powerful enough to end a great cusp, and that's a new Godhead. When the paradigm shifts, when the Godhead shifts, so does the paradigm. While Team Light is embracing the future, Team Dark is fearfully retreating. As a result, a God gap emerges. This is the most perilous point of the cycle, the moment we find ourselves in today. Now let's ponder how Team Light can help. This slide shows the nested laws of the universe as taught by the Hermetic tradition. I've been alluding to these laws during the talk, and though we don't have time to review all of them, they are fully examined in the light. The simplest of the laws is the law of gender, and tragically, humans have yet to master even this one, as evidenced by the recent reversal of Roe v. Wade. As the Hermetic text, the Kabbalion explains, gender is in everything. Everything has its masculine and feminine principle. The masculine principle corresponds to the objective conscious mind, And the feminine principle corresponds to the subjective subconscious mind. The I represents the masculine aspect of being, the me, the feminine aspect of becoming. Do you remember the book, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus? The book's most amusing chapters inform us that Martians are logical, practical, and competitive, while Venusians are intuitive, spiritual, and compassionate. While these depictions are dated by today's standards, the Kybalion validates the creative energy is the masculine principle, while the wisdom energy is attributed to the feminine. In my other preferred path, the Gnostic Kabbalah, the law of gender is explicitly depicted in the Tree of Life. As my former teacher, Tal Malachi, explains, these two pillars represent the eternal play of opposites and dynamic interaction. Evil is imbalanced force. Severity and imbalance is cruelty and oppression. Mercy and imbalance is weakness that allows and facilitates great evil. True compassion is a dynamic balance of severity and mercy. During the fourth paradigm, humans prize the tree of knowledge, science, and innovation over the tree of immortality, purity, and moral virtue. The result is that we've tolerated ethical inconsistencies and spiritual disorientation. In the light, there's a chapter called Entering the Void, which explores the hypothetical models of the earth and ethereal planes. I encourage Team Light to ponder these possibilities, to discern how best to navigate the great cusp and manifest the paradigm shift. New humans also can join the Hala movement, named in honor of physicist David Bohm, who inspired the merger of science and spirituality. Just as we saw with the metaphysical laws, the physical laws of the universe are also holarchical and interconnected. Holism means that evolution is not random. Rather, it is purposeful, and it encourages greater consciousness and complexity. It also means that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. The Hala movement is being mapped right now by the evolutionary leaders. It will be a global movement guided by Team Light and the emergent principles of the fifth spiritual paradigm. In the United States, the Hala movement will unlock the secret destiny of America, a spellbinding prediction that I update in The Light and the New Human. Lastly, I just want to mention the Women of Faith and Fury campaign sponsored by our esoteric church, Oracle Temple. Since the law of gender is essential to the paradigm shift, we're focused on reproductive rights. We've started an abortion fund to help women in Appalachia, where abortion already is banned or heavily restricted. I will close by emphasizing that the Oracle Trilogy provides new humans with a second-tier roadmap for accessing truth, sharing love, and unifying with the light. In addition, the Hala movement provides Team Light with a plan for societal success. This plan includes updating the Godhead, ending the great cusp, and closing the God gap. Our goal is to win this round of the God game for everyone on Team Human. It has been my pleasure to be with you. Good night and Om Jai.
Wow, Laura George. Amazing. Amazing. Everybody listening, I want you to know there will not be a quiz. You just got a taste of the amazing scope of Laura's knowledge, wisdom, and her book, which very clearly explains all of these points. This is a woman who can explain quantum physics in 3 pages, integral theory, all these things you've been wondering about, like what really are they? She just takes and distills so that they are easy to read and you really can grasp what it means to be on Team Light. So Laura, we had 2 very interesting questions in the chat. We only really have about a minute for you to address them, but I wanted to bring them up because it's great that people are asking. So one was, if fear is not the opposite of love, then what is? And the other, very different, is where is gender fluidity in your work? So you want to give us a quick response to those questions?
I want to spend more time on the first. So gender fluidity is an indication, again, that the law of gender is actually becoming understood by humans. It's a really good sign. But let us talk about the opposite of love. That would be hate. And the opposite of fear is courage. And the reason this point is so important, and actually the Kybalion drills this home, is because, again, we cannot transmute what we're not understanding. In other words, in the Gandhi versus Hitler chapter, many people don't know that Gandhi wrote Hitler letters. He was suggesting that Hitler had a higher self and hoped he could reach it. He also suggested to the Jews that they needed to be more passive, and that's how they might make it through the Holocaust. When you're dealing with someone as diabolical, when you're dealing with an enemy of that caliber, you better know what you're dealing with. And these people typically are not afraid. They're not afraid. They tend to be fearless. When we get to the level of dark lords and light masters, there's no fear involved on either team light or team dark. Anyway, there's a whole chapter on polarity. Actually, there's about 2 chapters on polarity, because this is what team light needs to learn. They view it as somehow beneath them. And then this is why we lose contests. This is why we don't compete on an even playing field. I mean, I love what Michelle Obama says, you know, when they go low, we go high. That works when your enemy or your opponent is at least basically moral. So for Gandhi, it worked with the British. But when you're dealing with outright cutthroat opponents, it's a whole different ballgame.
Okay, you want to learn more about that? You're going to have to read Laura George's book, The Light. And we're going to hear more about gender from our next guest. But first, we're going to have some music. Thank you so much, Laura.
First,
I seem to be echoing. Is there any way I can fix that?
I don't hear you echoing. I just hear
good.
I just hear your beautiful voice singular.
Maybe it's just me.
Yeah.
I hear you.
We hear you echoing.
We
Oh,
do.
everybody's echoing.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, so please, everybody, make sure and mute if you're not speaking.
Yes.
And I'm going to just give a this echo is terrible. Oh, Mashar, could you mute too for just a moment? Because you have a lot of sound things going on there. Yeah, that took away the echo. Just saying. And it's Omashar that I'm going to introduce now. He is the house musician for the Awakening World. He's an accomplished singer-songwriter and a transformational workshop facilitator. And his music, which he calls, I love this, metaphysical pop, celebrates the connection of all life and the journey we take home to our true self. So I'm going to stop talking so that there's no more echo while we listen to the music of Omashar.
Well, namaste, everybody, and let's just take a few deep breaths. I can see we're going for a deep dive tonight, and I loved what Laura said about love and fear not being opposites, because I used to think that they were opposites. Someone would say to me, what is the opposite of fear? I go, well, love, and vice versa. So, but however, as I expand within myself, I realized that this is my perspective, that love is all there is. Love is all there is. Everything else is an interference. And so with that, we'll sing this song. Well, I will sing this song called The Way Things Are from my perspective. Let's see. Press this one. Click.
What do you see when you're alone? What do you feel when you are by yourself? How could it be that you are here? Isn't it strange the way things are? Look at the river flowing by. Look at the colors of the butterfly. How do you feel about your life? Isn't it strange the way things are? Like a dolphin in the ocean, I can hear you calling me. Come on in, you say, the water's fine. I have come to set you free. You have never been alone, my friend. I was just a thought away. There's a deeper love that's holding you, and it's here to lead the way. La, da, da, da. And now that you see you're not alone, and there is no such thing as by yourself, there is a hand that's lifting you into the presence of yourself. Life is a tale that never ends, and there is a purpose to each heart that beats. You are the river flowing by. You are the colors of the butterfly. Like a dolphin in the ocean, I can hear you calling me. Come on in, you say, the water's fine. I have come to set you free. You have never been alone, my friend. I was just a thought away. There's a deeper love that's holding you, and it's here to lead the way. La, da, da, da. Whoa. Like a dolphin in the ocean, I can hear you calling me. Come on and you say, the water's fine. I have come to set you free. You have never been alone, my friend. I was just a thought away. There's a deeper love that's holding you, and it's here to lead the way. La, da, da, da.
Well, well, well.
Oh, Mashar, everyone loves this song.
I was just going to say exactly that. Everybody in the chat is saying this is my favorite.
It's a trip because I was could see all these things that I couldn't do because my hands were involved, and I was really wondering what the CC chat was making of my lyrics. I think it's made a pretty interesting mishmash of them. Anyway, thank you. Thank you so much.
No, we love your music and that song particularly, and just the even the thought of the dolphin calling to us. I just
It is.
love
That was beautiful. I was actually in Bali when I wrote that song, and I was in a hotel close to the ocean. And I felt this transmission. I was rehearsing for a conference that I was at, a metaphysical conference. And these songs just came and knocked on my head and said, "Write me now." And it felt to me like it was the cetacean influence from the ocean just downloading. And the song came in fully formed with the lyrics just blah. You know, within 10, 15 minutes, it was out. It was phenomenal. I love those moments. It's like no effort.
Well, you're a beautiful channel.
Yes.
Thank you, Michelle.
Yes, Trish, exactly. Cool. So I shall exit stage left. Good.
Okay, and I made a mistake. So this is with Scott not here. You have to be patient with us. But I neglected to give the floor to Trish to tell you all how you can find out more about Laura George. So let's do that before I introduce our next guests.
Yay, and I'm so excited that the evolutionary leaders are so involved in sort of this understanding of how gender and the world and integration is working. As a gender non-binary person and non-conforming person, I'm like, yay! I feel like Scott set me up for delight in this and inviting me to come on tonight. So you can find Laura George at theoracleinstitute.org. And this is this wonderful website. Look at that place, the Pentagon of Peace. You can find out. Tell us a little bit about what we can see here, Laura.
So those 5 boxes represent basically our 5 program areas. So we do have a spirituality school. We've got the publishing house. Then the Peace Pentagon itself is a profit center in the sense that soon we'll be able to do conferences and retreats there on a more regular basis. The yellow flower is our community, the Valley of Light, which I'd love to pause on just for a second because we actually are trying to build a second-tier community. So we view it as an incubator for new humans to see just how much more we can achieve if in a field of that level of sophistication and compassion and love, and we're highly motivated and just inspired by Federation of Damanhur. We actually publish books for Damanhur. I've been to Damanhur a couple times, and their ambassador until COVID hit and come here every year. So they, and actually the wheel you're showing right there is Barbara Marx Hubbard's wheel that we've tweaked a bit. So our ambitious goal is to do what Damanhur has done in an Americanized version, which is to create a full spectrum community. And most intentional communities operate in a couple of those sectors. And we would like to build a community that has the same features as a small town and see what we can co-create. So if you're listening and you're interested in community and you're second tier, please contact us.
And how do we do
catch what she means by second tier? So if you're waking up here,
second tier is a level of consciousness that Ken Wilber puts at maybe 10% of the planet at best. In fact, he says if we can get to 10% of the planet, we're probably going to be able to enter into the shift. And he cites as examples for that, like the American Revolution. Most of the colonists weren't ready to take on the British. Same thing with the civil rights movement. So there's this sweet spot when you get a critical mass, which doesn't need to represent the majority of the populace. So anyway, that's the idea behind.
Okay, well, we do need to move along, but I see that people can buy your books through your website as well.
Right here.
That's that second box there. There we go.
Right here.
So don't miss these wonderful books. They're truly your handbook to evolving consciousness. Go Team Light.
And Patricia Albert is another evolutionary leader. That was the first book on the screen. So another really good one on mutual awakening.
Well, thank you so much, Laura, for your devotion to humanity and to love. I really see that your heart is there and that you're walking the path. Thank you.
So that is the oracleinstitute.org for Laura George. Thank you so much, Laura, for being with us. So I hope you got an inkling of how important gender reconciliation is to our evolving consciousness, because we're going to hear more about that from our next guests, William Keepan, Dr. William Keepan, and Reverend Cynthia Briggs. So they are co-founders of Gender Equity and Reconciliation International. Will is a mathematical physicist with training in contemplative spirituality and transpersonal psychology. He's done research on global warming and sustainable energy, and he's published on environmental science, on quantum physics. He knows a lot about David Bohm, who inspired the term the Holo movement, and divine, as well as divine feminine theology and principles of social change leadership. And his partner, Cynthia Briggs, is an ordained interfaith minister, like me and Laura, I believe. And she has a background in women's issues and racial diversity. She's co-organized 7 international conferences on interspirituality, including 2 on women's spiritual leadership across diverse religious and indigenous traditions. And she holds an honorary doctorate, an MA, an MDiv. She's certified in breath work. She's another just amazing evolutionary leader. And she's co-author of Women Healing Women, a model of hope for oppressed women everywhere. Thank you, Cynthia, for that contribution. And together, they have co-authored Gender Equity and Reconciliation, 30 years of healing the most ancient wound in the human family. Did you get that? The most ancient wound in the human family. Will Keepan and Cynthia Briggs. Welcome.
Thank you, Deb.
Thank you, Deborah. It's a great privilege to be here.
Trish, thank you. Thank you, Laura, for all your offerings that you just gave us. That was beautiful.
It's a great entree to our work.
Yeah. So we want to open by saying that we are a nonprofit, Satchan Institute, and we have 2 program areas. The Gender Equity and Reconciliation International is one of those. The other one is called Dawn of Interspirituality, and that is bridging the religions and the spiritual traditions to really bring a deeper understanding and transform those areas of pain and suffering that has happened in the religious and spiritual domains. But as Deborah said, we are going to be talking about our program of gender equity and reconciliation tonight. The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King said, "Injustice and corruption will never be transformed by keeping them hidden, but only by bringing them out into the light and confronting them with the power of love." That's the essence of the work we do. And for 30 years, we've been doing it. Will's going to give you a little history here in a moment. But I just want to say that the essence of the work is that we bring people together, men and women, people of all gender identities and expressions and sexual orientations, together into safe form where we can speak about the sensitive and taboo issues around gender and sexuality. And a lot of our work, the whole program is experiential. We do online and in-person work, and it's experiential. We start by creating as safe a space as possible. We then, through different activities, do a deep dive into speaking truth to those issues around gender and sexuality. But we don't stay there. We stay there long enough to really hear the stories. And our new book is full of the stories that have come through the work in the 30 years that we've been doing it. We do the work, we sit in the fire together, we come through it. And then by the end of the program, we come out of that fire, if you will, and we consecrate the work. We honor each other. We acknowledge, and we create ceremony to be able to just, as I say, consecrate what has happened, which often gets missed. Often we speak truth to what's happening, but then we don't come back and do the honoring piece. And our work's really, it's an essential part of our work to do that. Maybe you can give a little, oh, well, let me just first real quickly just say that we have introduced the work to nearly 30,000 people in the 30 years. We have introduced it in 18 countries, and we're really a beloved community, global community of practitioners now. We have over 220 trained facilitators of the work. And now, maybe you'll give a little bit of the history of the work.
Well, maybe just a little bit about the book, because when we say we're not talking about the two, white folk you see here in front of you. We're talking about our global community. The book itself has 20 co-authors, and that represents the global leadership and diversity across the globe, gender diversity, racial diversity, cultural diversity of our leadership team. And so the authors themselves span 1,000 years of lived experience from 10 countries, I think. So it's a really remarkable global community that has emerged. Now, this work began, as Deborah mentioned earlier, I'm an environmental scientist by training. I worked in abating climate change, sustainable energy policy for abating global warming. I worked in that field for 25 years. And back in the late 80s and early 90s, there was a lot of, sexual harassment and Me Too kinds of violations taking place within the environmental movement. So here we were, a movement committed to healing our relationship with the natural environment, but we had this kind of toxic situation taking place in our human ecology, which we couldn't talk about. And so a group of us organized some early events, and we called them Gender and Ecology. Are there parallels between exploitation of the earth and exploitation of the feminine? And that opened up a whole domain that kind of blew away. We were kind of blown away by the power of what we had unleashed, because these initial events were not public events. They were invitational events for colleagues within the environmental movement. But when we created that opportunity for these things to come forward, it sort of overwhelmed our little workshop design. We had little ideas about how it was going to go, and it kind of, the power of it took over. So we spent several years then going back to the drawing board and developing skillful ways of working with these issues. And over time, we found ways to work with it and develop those. And so then we were also deeply inspired by the Truth and Reconciliation Commission in South Africa and the work of Desmond Tutu. And so we felt we need a truth and reconciliation process for gender as well. And so we renamed the work Gender Reconciliation back in the mid-90s, and then later Gender Equity and Reconciliation. And so it's really been a process of going into the deep wound of the gender imbalance that Laura was referring to, and that we all have lived in different ways. We have all been subjected to it. And we go into that. And we do it in different groups and communities depending on the focus. We have 3 program areas. One is called Me Too to We Together. And another one is the LGBTQ Forum Healing Program. And then the third one is the BIPOC, the Black, Indigenous, and People of Color Program. And we found that we address different aspects of the gender challenge and healing skillfully by working in these separate communities. And then we also have events where we all come together. We also come together online. We just did a conference, which was the Jerry Summit Conference, with a vision of a gender-healed world by 2050, because all of the forces that are now emerging create the possibility of actually reaching a tipping point and getting beyond this profound challenge that, as Laura George said, has been a central challenge for humanity for thousands of years. And we really feel the possibility of healing this. Just to give you a couple of examples of stories, there's so many, and the book is full of stories, and the book is organized in 5 sections. And it basically has a whole section devoted to this work in different sectors of the economy and in the United Nations and in the corporate sector and religions, so different forms. And then we have sections of the book on the work in different countries and continents. So it's a very comprehensive book because it's documenting a 30-year project. But just as one kind of example, in South Africa, we were doing a program there, and there was a very powerful moment where in the course of the work, there was a very powerful rape story that was told, first person, from someone who was processing her rape, preparing to face, go to court and face her rapist in court. And at the end of that moment, one of the men, there was just pin drop silence in the room. And then one of the men said, "I don't know how to be a man anymore. I feel traumatized." And we worked with him and helped him to understand the reason he felt traumatized was because his heart had opened to the pain of this woman, and he was now carrying part of her pain in his own heart. And that's a critical principle of our work, that when we experience the pain of the other as our own pain, then our hearts become transformed and intricately connected in that intimate union of hearts. And so that is a principle that happens in this work. And in his case, it was a life-changing moment for him. A year later, he joined our training and did our whole facilitator training, and then became one of our facilitators of this work in Soweto, in one of the townships in South Africa.
A couple of other stories. One is a woman was in the program, and we in our longer training for facilitators, we do holotropic breath work. This was a 5-day program, and she had a partner, and they bonded deeply through the holotropic breath work process. And then we went into an activity where, it's like fishbowl, outer circle and silence, inner circle sharing, and the moving in and out of that inner circle. And she moved in, and she shared that she was lesbian. And then her breathwork partner stepped in. He was a man, and he looked at her and he said, "If I had known that you were lesbian just 2 days ago when this program started, I would have never talked with you. I would have never been your friend. But because we went through the deep process of connection through breath work and the other activities, I now cannot not be your friend. I have to be your friend." So it's that unity, that coming together. Another story real quickly is one, I changed her name to Elena. She came to the program and she was so excited to be there. And when she first started sharing, she shared her story, although we didn't know it was her story, in third person. And then slowly she started coming out and saying, "This is really my story. And I've kept it a secret with me and my children for 30 years. She talked about her husband having been very abusive. And when they were married, he would hang the babies over the banister, threatening to drop them while Elena was down below, ready to catch them. He moved his mistress into the house and made Elena and the children live in the toilet area, in the bathroom. And so this went on for years and years. And then eventually her husband died. And she felt liberated and freed in a way, but the secret remained until she came to the workshop. At the end of the workshop, after telling it during that ceremony time, as I was sharing earlier, the men created the ceremony and brought the women in, and they had us in a horseshoe-shaped chairs around, and in front of us was this huge structure of chairs, just one stacked on top of the other. And they said, "We are committed to breaking and dismantling the patriarchal system." And they, at that moment, went to the bottom of the chairs and pulled the legs out, and the whole thing came crashing down. And the women just, it was just the power of that statement. And those men have carried it on in the gender work, in our work. But then they came around with a bowl of water, warm water, and they washed the hands of the women very tenderly. And they washed Elena's hands, and it was the first time she had ever felt the safe touch of a man before. At the end of the workshop, a few days later, we saw Elena and she came running out to us and she said, Will and Cynthia, I have to tell you, after the workshop, I went to my husband's grave and I was able to forgive him for everything he had done. Then I knew where his mistress lived and I hadn't seen her in over 20 years. I went and I knocked on her door and when she answered, she was in a wheelchair. And she said, Elena, I've been thinking about you all week long. And she invited her in and she said, I think I'm in this wheelchair for all the things I did, the terrible things I did to you and your children. And they were able to reconcile. They were able to forgive. That's the power of the work of speaking truth without shame or blame, with coming forth with the power of love, and being able to come to a place of forgiveness and healing. And we've shared, just really quickly, we've shared some very powerful stories. I think every one of us, or most every one of us, has had some kind of gender wound at some level in our life, regardless of how you identify. And so coming into that safe place to be able to share is the healing medicine, if you will.
And just to close with kind of what we've learned over 30 years, the first thing is the incredible power of this work to transform human communities and structural injustice into beloved community. We have witnessed this power consistently across the work that we do. A second one is that typically women in this work realize how much men suffer in the patriarchy. They just have no idea. That's a common theme we hear all the time. And men realize the magnitude of suffering that women go through. They kind of know vaguely the statistics, but in this work, their eyes are open to another whole level. And heterosexual people learn of the incredible pain that LGBTQ people go through. And we have profound healing. We have a new program that's been developed in the last couple of years, working with healing between queer and straight believers in faith communities, in churches that are divided in that way. So we really see the power, the alchemical transformative power of this work. As we often hear people say, this experience has opened my heart in ways I didn't even know it was closed. And what happens is the veils drop and we see one another soul to soul, beyond gender identification. And we come into that place of the communion of the heart, which was, of course, the great experience of beloved community that we all know is possible. So it's been a great gift to be doing this work, and please check out our new book because it has all these stories from across the globe about that are similar to what you've just heard tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
The communion of the heart. The chat is filled with the word wow. People are weeping in the chat room. They are saying, William and Cynthia, your contribution is huge and so appreciated. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, and Deborah, I'll just say again, to reiterate, it's not just Will and Cynthia. Yes, we founded it, and it's a whole community of people. We say this in the book. The Buddhist monk, Thich Nhat Hanh, said the next Buddha won't be one person, but a community of people. And this is really true in our work.
Well, I appreciate that, but I also appreciate you.
Well, thank you.
I'll receive it. Okay.
That you are a gift. You are a gift to our world.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for this beautiful work. And thank you also for the concept that deeply touched me about the connection between the exploitation of the earth and the exploitation of the feminine.
Yeah.
Oh, and one last thing, I just have to say this. What men realize in this work is that the greatest male privilege is not any of the advantages afforded to men in patriarchal society. The greatest male privilege is to basically consciously participate in deconstructing that unjust system itself. Yeah.
And that is the opportunity for all of us of
Right.
any gender in this world so badly in need of transformation.
Yeah.
So
I-
Trish, please tell us how people can find out more about Will and Cynthia and their work, their beautiful work, powerful work.
I love this. This is part of my work in the world. I have a men's program called Dignified Man, and it helps them look at how patriarchal world has really impacted them. And my work actually comes from Bell Hooks and Kimberly Crenshaw's work and that foundation. So I am delighted to just, I'm ready to read your book and get all of that. I'm so happy. Thanks, Scott, for setting me up for success here.
I saw Trish applauding in her little Zoom box while you were saying.
Because it is true. You know, some of the harms that we haven't even known that we've been participating in is the construction of gender, race, class, different hierarchies of humanity. I'm writing an anthropology of codependency right now, and that's part of my work in the world is kind of looking at 4,000 years back and walking it forward, and it touches gender, every identity, marriage, race, class. It touches everything. So that's so I'm so excited.
Thank you, Trish.
Can you
It's
share
very-
their website?
Sure, fast enough.
You're doing just fine.
Scott's triple stand-ins here.
Is this it?
Well, that's it.
GR
Covered
World.
over. No,
GR
you had
World.
it
Oh.
there with,
I was actually wanting to show it in this very specific way.
Okay.
okay.
She has a plan.
I do have a plan, but it doesn't seem to be working the way that I want it to work. Okay. Sorry, Scott. There we go.
There it is.
So, tell us a little bit about what we can see here and about how to find your book.
Well, right there, you could click on the link for the book. But before you do that, I just want to say when this website was designed last year, they kept trying to give us stock photos. And we said, no, we need the real people. So every photo on this website are people who are participating in the work.
We have so many thousands of photos. The last thing we needed was stock photos. Here's our leadership team. Some
Some
of
part
them.
of them, you know, some of the authors.
Beautiful.
I love that you focus on people's real life experience because I think that's what really humanizes people. Empathy, teaching people empathy.
Yeah, and we have bilingual programs. We have programs in Latin America, in Spain, in Spanish, and also in Hindi, and soon to be in Swahili. So we're moving out there. Oh, and Korean also.
Look at that.
In the chat, someone is saying, my heart is overflowing and my eyes full of tears. What powerful work.
Their book here. You just click from this
That's
little,
what you click on there.
and it sends you to here, and you can find Gender Equity and Reconciliation, 30 Years of Healing the Most Ancient Wound in the Human History. This looks amazing. I'm so excited to read it. Thank you.
Well,
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
so
everyone in the
much.
community.
We
Thank you
really
for being
appreciate
here.
This opportunity. Thank you for inviting us. A great joy to be part of this experience. And
Thank you for opening our hearts with your amazing work.
Thank you, Deborah. Thank you, Trish. Thank all of you. Thank you, Scott.
Everyone, we have a lot more tonight. We are full of special treats tonight. So before we go any further with our next author, I want to bring on evolutionary leader, Dr. Mama Ivy. She's going to do a sound healing for us later. And if you have never experienced that, you do not want to miss it. But I wanted to give Dr. Ivy an opportunity to comment on what she's heard so far from her fellow evolutionary leaders. So would you like to speak to us for a few minutes? Let's see if we can hear you. You're on mute right now, so we're not hearing.
Okay, I think he's
There
taking
you go.
off now.
Okay.
Yay! Hello. Wow, this has really been a powerful moment together. And I'm very, very grateful from Om Shanti Village here in Centerville, Virginia, going live. So I'm just wondering if you want to just go right into the music, or how do you want to do it?
Well, we're going to have an opportunity to hear your music later. But
Okay.
I just wanted to know if there was anything that you'd like to say, to comment on what you've heard from Laura George, from Will Keepan and Cynthia Bricks, or anything on this topic of Team Light.
Well, I will tell you this, that I have been following the light ever since I was a little child. And it really sparked those memories for me when I was listening. And then I was listening to the whole idea of healing harm and pain. And that's very, very close to the work that I do in social justice, mindfulness, and meditation and relaxation. So what I'm hearing is that we have got to bring this message out into the world with a quantum leap of understanding, because this is what we need right now. And then I really got some wonderful insights around good and evil that I hadn't thought of before, in the way that we heard in the beginning of this program, is that the light and the dark is after the same goal. It's just, how do we get there? And so in doing the work that we do, I believe that we have the responsibility for raising consciousness and healing the heart. And I love the idea of building empathy, particularly even in the work that I do in violence interruption and violence prevention and violence response in the area of restorative justice. All of this works together, and I think we've got to amp it up so that we can touch those hearts and those minds that aren't listening to these programs. How do we find them and give them this information? And this is a very powerful format for us to begin to do that together.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ivy, and bless you for your work healing violence. This is the result of this kind of separation between the genders, between us and the earth, between us and one another.
It truly is. And I think the key here, and I heard him say, that when the heart hears the truth about the level of pain and hurt and despair that someone has experienced, that instantly sparks the whole idea of empathy. And one wants to begin to do the work to repair the harm. And I think that is a very powerful vision and beautiful work over.
And how we create the communion of the heart that we'll spoke about.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mama Ivy, and we will be looking forward to hearing from you in just a little while.
All right.
Thank you. But right now, we're going to hear a second song from Lakshmi. So we loved your first song, Lakshmi, and we're really looking forward to hearing what else you have to offer us this evening.
I cannot see Lakshmi. What's she done?
How is everybody doing? What beautiful, powerful stuff we're getting to be a part of tonight.
Mm-hmm.
We see her, Omashar.
Oh, there.
Mr. Technology.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes,
I had the
we've got you
camera off.
now.
That was why I couldn't find it, because the camera was off. Yes, we can hear you, Lakshmi, and we're ready for you.
Awesome. There we go. Yeah. Well, this is a more contemplative song, so I hope you enjoy. Somewhere between the world we know and lovers Spiral galaxies entwine, weaving world where light beings know their own kind. The mysteries of the dark whisper their songs, and we sing along. Was it just a dream that I felt deep inside? Just a passing grace that the dark did provide? A memory to remind me of how love comes when mountains bow to oceans and the rivers run. Wild and free, wild and free, wild and free, wild and free. Luscious forest, dripping with the tears of the wind. Rivers run with ancient prayers, birthing new life into this moment. Like children playing in the garden, feast of hearts and lovers' songs. We sing along. Was it just a dream that I felt deep inside? Just a passing grace that the dark did provide? A memory to remind me of how love comes when mountains bow to oceans and the jaguars run. Wild and free, wild and free. Was it just a dream that I felt deep inside? Just a passing grace that the dark did provide? A memory to remind me of how love comes when mountains bow to oceans and the whales run. Wild and free, wild and free.
How beautiful. Thank you so much, Lakshmi.
Lakshmi. Awesome.
Thank you. That was magnificent. Your beautiful voice and your beautiful guitar. That is a very special instrument there.
Yes, it is. A gift from a loved one.
Thank you so much. And
Mm.
I love your website that Priscilla just put in the chat, holyloveinstitute.com.
Oh, that's actually not my website. And I'm affiliated with it, but my website I will put in.
Please put it in the chat because I'm sure people will want to support you and your music.
Yeah, sure.
And we needed that because we've had so much deep information tonight. And
Mm.
your lovely sounds allow us to take it all in, to receive it
Yeah,
and to process it through your music.
the power of music. Yeah,
Power of music. Thank you, Lakshmi.
sure. Thank you for having me.
All right.
Is now the time to show her website?
It is.
Mm.
And here we have lakshmimusic.net.
Yes, thank you.
Tell me a little bit more about a new class on what?
Yeah, so I'm a woman of many hats. So I've been a wonderful performing musician for many, many years, 20 years. And now I teach family music classes and I teach private singing. And my other hat is in the healing realms. I work with people, I work with somatic embodiment. So I help people take healing to that level. It's a very specific kind of work where they call it bottom up work, where a lot of talk therapy is, they call it top down. Somatic work is bottom up, so that you're working with bodily sensations. And the truth is we need both. So, and my sessions ultimately include both, but their focus is on allowing the body to speak, giving a safe space for the body to speak. And I feel like my whole life has been about embodiment, and my music is about embodiment. So it all kind of comes together that way.
This is great. To be in the body is, I think, to be in presence.
Yes, absolutely.
If you don't notice, I'm going to point them out right here on the side here, on the left side, that you can find her on SoundCloud, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And go like.
That's awesome.
As a creator, I understand that it's important to build a following, because if you go say, I like this person, then someone else who doesn't even know you or will go follow any of these evolutionary leaders here.
Yeah.
It helps them reach a larger community. And this is how we evolve and grow.
Yeah,
So,
thank you so much, Trish. I really appreciate that. That was very kind. Thank you for supporting me that way.
we're in it together.
Yeah, indeed.
Thank you so much for being with us this evening. Whoops.
My deep
Not
pleasure.
plugged in.
Oh, we can hear you though.
Good. All right. Thank you, Lakshmi. We really appreciate it. Beautiful sounds.
Thank you.
So it's time for us to move on to the final author whom we'll hear from this evening. And don't forget, we have some special treats after this conversation. We're still going to see the promo for our young evolutionary leader, Akasha Sequoia Slavner's film. And we're going to have that powerful sound healing from Dr. Mama Ivy. So stay tuned. But first, I want to introduce you to someone very special. His name is Dr. Robert Atkinson, known as Bob. He's an author and an educator and a developmental psychologist. He is a 2020 Gold Nautilus Book Award winner as co-editor of our Moment of Choice, Evolutionary Visions and Hope for the Future. And so I guess I am too, because we worked on that together. But quite honestly, that whole project would never have happened without Bob steering it forward. He's a quiet guy, but he gets the job done. And he's also an inspiring writer. So he won a Silver Nautilus for his book, The Story of Our Time, From Duality to Interconnectedness to Oneness. And he's the author of 8 other books. And he's also the founding director of the One Planet Peace Forum, which originated in his home state of Maine. His latest book is it's so hot off the presses, I think it's not even officially come out yet. Is that the case, Bob? Or is it just
right.
about to come out, or has it just come out?
Officially November 17th.
See, you're getting the sneak preview here on the Awakening World. And it's called A New Story of Wholeness, an experiential guide for connecting the human family. So I give you Bob Atkinson.
Thanks so much, Deborah. It's great to be with you and everyone. What an evening of sharing. And I've just been really enjoying sitting here listening to Laura and Will and Cynthia about their 2 books. And now, as I get to say a little bit about mine, I hope everyone really sees what I see as a thread connecting all 3 books really kind of deeply, actually. So I'd like to say a bit about the hidden thread of wholeness connecting us all, to give a little overview of my book out this month. And as we get closer and closer to what may be the most important midterm elections ever in this country, there's no doubt that we're living in a divided world. We see this now at every campaign stop with Save America and Save Democracy coming from different sides. What's as important is knowing how to heal this divide. This is where John Lennon's song might come in. Imagine with me for a moment. Imagine there's only wholeness. Imagine all things in the entire creation making up an interconnected whole. Imagine a oneness in which all things are of this wholeness in motion. Imagine a world in which the explicit purpose of life is to realize the wholeness of the entire creation, to serve the good of the whole, and to live out our lives in wonderment of and in harmony with that whole. In this wholeness, everything is so interdependent that apparent opposites like yin and yang, feminine and masculine, are complementary, interrelated halves of the same whole, balancing, integrating, uniting, and transcending their apparent duality. In this wholeness, we wouldn't have to imagine something out there when it is already right here. A unitive awareness as a way of seeing reality is central to indigenous wisdom traditions and a state of consciousness sought by all contemplative practices, yet readily available to all. As we remember from the origin story of Gaia, our planetary home, all existence was intended to remain whole. However, stories like the Garden of Eden and Pandora's Box are not only about asserting our own individual will over a greater will, but also about humanity's fall from wholeness. To put these stories in a broader context, I'd like to share with you a story about stories. There was a time when people gathered around campfires, the center of community life, to share stories that embodied the values and principles they lived by. These stories held the community together and gave them a shared purpose. They were unitive narratives, essential to their individual and collective well-being. Then there came a time when communities expanded, spread out, became more diverse, and experienced conflict and disorder. Out of this discord emerged divisive narratives that maintained separation. Today, as we approach a consciousness of global integration, a new story of our wholeness is needed to frame this interconnectedness. It is time to come together again through unitive narratives to share our own story of living into wholeness. So here we have a storyteller's history of the world, of how stories evolved over the millennia. Nothing may be more vital right now than a healing vision that guides us toward wholeness. A new story of wholeness offers just that by decoding a pattern hidden within the structure of story itself. A big clue to our living into wholeness is found in the Hermetic principle of as above, so below, all things accomplishing the miracles of the one thing. Plato gives us a vision of this wholeness too. He said, perhaps there is a pattern set up in the heavens for one who desires to see it, and having seen it, to find one in himself. A new story of wholeness shows how we discover this pattern in ourselves through a wide range of ways of knowing and practices meant to assist us in the journey to our fullest potential. This hidden thread of wholeness connecting us all is much clearer in mythology, mysticism, ritual, and psychology. In mythology, this pattern is seen as a journey of departure, initiation, and return. In mysticism, it is a process of awakening, purification, and union. In ritual, it is separation, transition, and incorporation. And in psychology, it takes in the stages of birth of the ego, death of the ego, and birth of the whole self. This central pattern of transformation is evident in the basic structure of story, too, which is not just beginning, middle, and end, but on a much deeper and more meaningful level, beginning, muddle, and resolution. It is the muddle or the challenges we face that is the core of the pattern that brings the process of transformation to its completion or resolution. When we merge all these ways of knowing or practices into one, we come up with a blueprint for living into wholeness, consisting of three main parts, which I refer to in A New Story of Wholeness as call to wholeness, path of purification, and return to wholeness. This pattern is part of our archetypal DNA. It guides our evolving consciousness, transforms our lives, keeps our focus on the wholeness of all things, and keeps humanity on its evolutionary path. In my mid-20s, this journey to wholeness was just beginning for me through a series of interconnected adventures, including watching the first moonwalk, sailing with Pete Seeger on the maiden voyage of the Hudson River sloop Clearwater, attending Woodstock, living in a cabin in the woods, having Joseph Campbell as a mentor, living in a Franciscan monastery, and returning to the college I had graduated from 3 years earlier to teach a course on folk rock lyrics as poetry. I came to experience firsthand how all things are tied together with only artificial boundaries in a greater wholeness. These experiences turned into a memoir and the foundation and framework for a lifetime of work around this theme. A New Story of Wholeness brings all the paths to wholeness back together as one and provides the context, framework, and all the reflective writing exercises needed for telling our stories of wholeness. So what would it be like if there really is a timeless, universal pattern found in the heavens, as well as in us, that is designed to guide us toward unitive consciousness? How would that change the way we live our lives? Well, everything would change. We'd not only fulfill our innate potential, but by passing on this understanding to others, we'd also transform the world in the process. This universal pattern is a roadmap for achieving the greatest expansion of consciousness that is humanly possible. If this roadmap was followed, we'd experience an inner journey that unites us all. Living into our wholeness includes wrestling with our demons, dancing with our angels, making plans with our inner guide, and connecting with our soul, resulting in a deeply lived life. In this process, we discover that at our essence, we are more like others than not, and we would experience the sense of union with creation that comes through service to and a deep interpersonal relationship with others. The goal of the process of remembering our unitive consciousness is not escape from the world or even union with the Creator, but the fullest possible spiritual development through our work in the world. A new story of wholeness provides that roadmap for living into wholeness and connecting the human family, one story at a time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bob. It's an inspiring picture that you paint for how life could be if we truly lived into that wholeness. I'm particularly intrigued by your concept of the beginning, the muddle, and the end. And one of the things that struck me about that is how it reflects back to the diagram that Laura George showed, where there was kind of a mountain and then there was this depression in the middle that you then had to climb out of, and that's sort of where we are right now in our shared attempt to accelerate conscious evolution. So how can we harness the power of wholeness to help us to climb out of the muddle part of the beginning and muddle and end? Is there a recipe for that?
Great question. That's really the heart of the book. I mean, and because the pattern itself is the recipe, is the hidden thread that connects us all in our wholeness. But it's a pattern that is not linear. I mean, it can be linear, but it's more cyclical because it's a pattern that repeats itself in our lives over and over many times. Usually the first time we experience that pattern in our lives is the biggest, most important experience of that, because then we become familiar with its purpose that it has for us, which is basically, again, it's a pattern and a process that takes us through our own transformation. And so it's at its core, it's a process of transformation. The other interesting thing about the pattern is that, and it being cyclical, is that it's both individual and collective at the same time. So humanity is going through this same pattern right now. And as everybody can probably tell and feels deeply, humanity is in its own muddle as well right now. But as the pattern plays out, as it will, humanity will get to the resolution that we've been striving for, struggling for generations and centuries even.
Thank you so much, Bob. We're going to just take a moment to say goodbye to Will and Cynthia, who need to sign off right now. I apologize if the show is going a little bit long, but it's because you're all so brilliant and wonderful that we want to hear every word from all of you.
Yeah,
So
and
thank
Bob,
you so
we're
much.
sorry to interrupt. We really appreciated your presentation and Laura's presentation.
And we just have another commitment that we have to get to, but really great joy to be with you all tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you for inviting us. Thank you, Deb. Thank you, Trish. Thank you, Omashar. Thank you all. This has been just wonderful.
It's our pleasure. Thank you. Have a good night.
All good
Okay.
wishes to everyone. Bye for now.
And blessings in your work.
Thank you.
Blessings on all of you. Thank you.
And Bob, we have a wonderful comment in the chat for you that when words of truth fall like nourishing rain upon the parched human spirit and aching human heart. Thank you for so beautifully articulating the dissolution of polarity. So that is, in fact, what you're doing. And you're giving us a new story to write together of how humanity can reconnect with the oneness that, you know, I'm often struck by indigenous people's words for their own tribe is usually the people. Like there's never any idea that there's anybody outside of the people.
Right, no separation there.
Yeah. So thank you so much. And someone else said, what a very needed and appreciated work. And someone said, I could listen to Bob for hours. Thank you. So thank you so much, Bob, for being with us this evening and for sharing the sneak peek into your book. And Trish, can you tell us how we can find out more about it?
Yeah.
By the way, Bob's book has a gorgeous cover. So I hope you get to see that.
So this is where you can find Robert Atkinson, ATKINSON.net. And you can find
You can X out that thing on the right there if you want to.
Well, I'm going to sign up because
Sorry.
I will do that. But you can find, look at it. This is what she was talking about. Like, look how beautiful this book is.
Isn't it? Oh, we know that book.
Yeah.
I'm going to put that link in the chat as well.
A New Story of Wholeness, an experiential guide for connecting to the human family. The thing that I was mostly struck by your share, Robert, is just how we are in that time, and we get to choose to weave ourselves into unity. You didn't use those exact words, but I really appreciate this work, and I'm so excited to get your book.
Thank you.
And it's interesting. We have a comment that says, I feel the pattern as being in a spiral, moving inwards and moving outwards. And if you can show the book cover again,
yeah,
I think that person really got the message.
Yeah.
So there is that
There it is.
spiral moving in and out.
Can you talk to us a little bit about what we're seeing on your website?
Well, the top slider thing is just my most recent books, and right below it is the description that you have already heard pretty much just now. Those are the main books. Each one has its own page, and my bio and the Oneness Pledge that anyone can still take, and a blog that's relatively active. Just a lot of information about me, and down further, if you want to scroll down a bit, it has links to some of the other things that I'm doing that Deborah mentioned. And that's from The Story of Our Time.
You got to get to the One Planet Peace Forum as
At
well
the
there.
very bottom, there's a link to One Planet Peace Forum at the bottom, and also a link to Story Commons.
Is this right here?
Just up a little bit. Yeah, right there. Those the three in a line there. Those are the links to the other two sites. Anyone can
Down,
out.
Trish.
Sorry, I'm not.
Down to the three
Okay, got it.
boxes.
Yeah,
there
right
we
there.
go.
I see One Planet Peace Forum. Got it.
Yes. Yeah, isn't that a beautiful name for an event? So everybody, robertatkinson.com for all of this beautiful
.net.
information. No, I'm sorry, .net. You are
Right.
not a commercial kind of a
Thank
guy. You are definitely a
Thank you,
networker
Rob.
bug. Thank you so much for being with us this evening.
Thank
And
you.
thank you, Trish, for showing off our evolutionary leaders. So 2 more experiences for all of you this evening. We are now going to hear a pre-recorded interview with one of our youngest evolutionary leaders, Kasia Sequoia Slavner. She is a Gen Z multi-award winning documentary filmmaker who comes to the profession as a seasoned photographer, public speaker, entrepreneur, and social justice advocate for over a decade. At 15, she founded the Global Sunrise Project, a social impact media hub. And her first feature documentary, called The Sunrise Storyteller, screened internationally at, get this, 60 film festivals and won 30 awards at 15, right? Including the Ron Kovic Peace Prize and the Eva Haller Women Transforming Media Award. Currently, she's in production for a film called 1.5 Degrees of Peace, and that's what she's going to tell us about tonight. So fire it up, Omashar. We get to see your tech skills as you bring us the interview with Scott Katamas and Kasia Sequoia Slavner. Except we can't hear Scott.
That pesky Zoom. It's, to be on the back end, there's a lot of buttons to push and a lot of things to track while you're here. So
just see if we can hear this, all right?
Mm-hmm.
Joy it is to be with
Yes.
who's coming to us from Toronto.
Now, can we see it and hear it at the same time?
You represent
Through the magic of Zoom?
You have so much grace, and we are so patient with you, Omashar. Thank you.
I love myself.
Joy it is to be
Good.
with Kasia, who's coming
Lift
to us
off.
from Toronto. And you represent really the next generation, which is really important for us. And so I'd love to just start by asking you, what does the awakening world, what's that mean to you when you think of the awakening world, and maybe your role in supporting our awakening?
Great question. Thanks for having me as well. When I think of the awakening world, what comes to mind is people coming together to address the injustices and the systemic imbalances that we're facing as a world. I think we're definitely at a pivotal moment where we're realizing a lot of the systems and structures established do not serve most people. And so striving to create a world that is equitable and fair and healthy and conditions that allow for everybody to thrive is what I think of.
Beautiful. And how long have you been tapped in that way? How long have you been really, like, all your life, or was there a particular turning point?
I would say that my mom definitely instilled a sense of social justice in me, and care and compassion for the world around me. So it's been kind of a lifelong journey that's been nurtured, but I really started using media as a tool for that kind of expression when I was about 14 or 15 years old. So the last 10 years, I've definitely been more dedicated to social and environmental justice and making the world a better place.
It's extraordinary that you have done that at such an early age. So what are you optimistic about and what are you concerned about? Like what from your worldview is working and getting better, and what from your worldview is like, oh my God?
I would say that I'm optimistic about the ways that people around the world at the grassroots level are really working towards creating that vision for a better world, creatively, innovatively. I think the way that young people today are mobilizing across borders, across continents, across movements is really inspiring. And my concerns come from seeing the direction that we're going in terms of the climate crisis, in terms of conflicts, in terms of economic injustices and social injustices. We're seeing the impacts of all of those intersecting and our world leaders not adequately addressing them yet.
I really so appreciate that you recognize that, because it's true, it's all connected. Social and racial justice is completely connected to economic justice. And it's too complex for most people to even want to wrap their heads around. So, thank you. Tell us briefly about, what you did with your first feature, The Sunrise Storyteller, and then we want to learn about what you're doing now.
Sure. So The Sunrise Storyteller came about the idea came about when I was 14. And I had gotten the opportunity to go to a UN conference on gender equality, and the opportunity to meet with women from around the world who were trying to address that issue in their own communities, who were collaborating and coming up with ideas and kind of generating a whole bunch of energy about how we could make gender equality achievable, really inspired me to tell those kinds of stories that I wasn't seeing in the mainstream media, that weren't represented. And so The Sunrise Storyteller is a film that looks at the idea of global citizenship, uniting a whole bunch of different social issues by the way that grassroots leaders are creatively addressing them and overcoming adversity in their communities. So it's a real global look at the ways people are making positive change. And then as for what I'm doing now, my current film, 1.5 Degrees of Peace, is another feature documentary that's in production that investigates the links between the climate crisis, conflicts, militarism, and systemic violence. Because often those two issues are, siloed in terms of their approach addressing them. It looks at that huge complex question through the lens of the personal stories of young people who are impacted by the nexus of both issues in their communities, who are addressing those two together and who are attempting to unify movements for peace and climate justice.
So that's so important. I'm actually going to go to your website for a moment here. And this is the website for 1.5 Degrees of Peace. You can find everybody at point is spelled, 1.5degreesofpeace.com. And what does 1.5 degrees actually mean? What is the meaning of that within the naming of this?
Sure. So the 1.5 element of the title comes from the limit for internal warming. So if we are to cap our internal warming at 1.5 degrees, at 1.5 degrees, we could prevent a whole bunch of catastrophic changes. After we surpass 1.5 degrees, the climatic disasters that are going to continue to just snowball and worsen is almost impossible to control or limit. We have to stay within kind of that safe zone if we're to prevent the worst possible outcomes. So when I think of 1.5 degrees of peace, it involves factoring in peace, disarmament, and mitigating conflict to achieving climate justice. you can't separate the two from one another. So 1.5 degrees of peace will secure a future that is peaceful, healthy, and sustainable.
Beautiful, thank you. So again, I want to encourage everybody to go to her website, register so that you have, she has your email address and you can donate. And it's so important for us to support projects like this. And so please let's donate. US or Canadian, tax deductible, we appreciate that. And I'm going to show this 12-minute trailer next. Of course, you won't be with us. So do you want to introduce what we're about to see?
Sure. So the demo that is on the website for 1.5 degrees of peace was just our first, I guess when I came up with the concept for the film, I really wanted to get people talking about the intersection between peace and climate justice. So I made this 5-minute trailer that kind of talks about what the thesis of the film will be, so that we can get that conversation started. And that's really the first step to engaging people in these two issues together, is having that conversation, opening their minds, and gaining that insight so that we can feel compelled to take action all together. So the trailer for 1.5 degrees of peace is that first step for us before the film actually comes out.
Beautiful. Well, we're going to show it right now. Kasia, thank you so much. Thank you for your time, but most of all, thank you for your commitment. We were talking before we started recording about how difficult it is to make a movie, and how difficult it is then to get it distributed. So God bless you for doing that hero's work. And I look forward to following you and tracking you, and we'll send you a copy of our final show so you can kind of see how people responded to you, because I'm sure a lot of people will be filling up the chat box with appreciations and acknowledgements for you.
Great. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Take care.
So, how was that meeting this incredible young person? And also lovely to see Scott Katamas missing from this show, The Awakening World, for the first time in 3 years because of his other commitment this evening. I'm sure now you are very anxious to see the trailer for Kasia's film that she's working on, 1.5 Degrees of Peace. I'd like to ask if one of our people could put Kasia's website in the chat so that people can find her. And we're going to watch just the trailer itself. So just about 3 minutes of Kasia Sequoia Slavner's work. So let's see it now.
The trailer for my film, or the demo rather, and hopefully this will give you some insight into what we're hoping to create with the feature documentary. Peace and climate justice are more connected than we realize. I'm Kasia Sequoia Slavner. I'm a Gen Z documentary filmmaker and a peace and climate activist from Toronto, Canada. I've been feeling so much anxiety about climate change. Uncertain, frustrated. People are making decisions for our generation without taking our future realities into consideration.
Code Red for Humanity, released today by the United Nations, paints a grim picture for our future unless we take action now.
I'm on a mission to show just how closely connected peace and climate justice are.
Wars, a lot of militarization are taking away budgets, but are also putting a lot of carbon emissions in the air.
Through stories of youth making positive change.
Those who are already exposed to violence and war are those who are also most vulnerable to the extreme weather events.
Movements of all kinds are pretty much single issue. They're siloed. Climate change and nuclear weapons, we have to deal with them together.
And stop both clocks ticking towards our extinction. How can we turn our anxiety about these existential threats into bold action that holds leaders accountable? How can we find hope?
The climate crisis isn't just about carbon dioxide emissions, it's about people.
What if people were as well trained in waging peace as soldiers are in waging war?
We need a peace movement to accommodate everyone because everyone's life is at stake.
A community led by the most marginalized sectors of society, fueled by this love for peace, and love for the planet.
Take small steps, baby steps. The ripple effect will be very dramatic. Each one of us is powerful beyond measure.
It's my hope that these stories of courageous action ease our personal and collective anxiety, igniting us to stand together and catalyzing a unified intergenerational peace movement for the survival of our planet and all living beings. Unless we do something, we're in deep Our core team is made up of myself as director, cinematographer, and writer. We have Marla Slavner as
There we are.
Are we inspired or what? There's a comment in the chat that says, Kasha, you are amazing. The young people give me so much hope. And yes, they do, especially this young person. She's just a shining light, isn't she? So I really want to encourage, especially if the trailer was small on your screen, go to her website and watch it large. So her website is www.1.5degreesofpeace.com. And the 1 is a number, point is a word, 5 is a number, degrees is a word. So it's 1.5 degrees of peace.com. And keep track of Kasha Sequoia Slavner. She's a star of the future. I think the only thing we could do tonight to close the show, besides thank all of our incredible presenters, these beautiful evolutionary leaders who have so much vision and so much, I just think of the work that it takes, as Scott was saying, it's so much work to make a film. It's so much work to write a book. And our authors this evening, they didn't just sit home and write a book and that was all they were doing. They were out in the world living these issues and contributing in every way that they can. So I really want to thank our authors who presented this evening, Laura George, Will Keepan and Cynthia Bricks, and Bob Atkinson. So it was a joy to have all of you with us on the Awakening World this evening, in addition to our musicians, to Lakshmi and Omashar. And now we're going to hear from Dr. Reverend Ivy Hilton, the most amazing sound healer. And here you're looking at Laura George and Bob Atkinson, and we know Will and Cynthia had to go on, but you were all just wonderful, and you got very beautiful acknowledgements in the chat as well. And we know that you're being watched this evening, not only in the Zoom room, but on all of the Facebook pages that are part of the Sign Network. Through the courtesy of John and Summer Raymer. We also want to thank Scott Katamas and Deborah Giusti, who created this program. For Scott, for giving us this opportunity to be together this evening, to Trish and Omashar and Priscilla behind the scenes, who helped make this happen by co-hosting it.
Yes, thank you for putting up with the technical glitches, but hey, I like egg on my face, it's all good. And Lakshmi had to leave, and she sends her love. And she had another engagement to go to. So that was wonderful hearing her contribution tonight also.
And all of you who stayed on to the very end are in for a treat now, because we're going to bring on Dr. Mama Ivy. She is a holistic integrative health practitioner specializing in contemplative interventions for wholeness and well-being. Isn't that perfect to follow Bob Atkinson's talk on his book on wholeness? She's an international sound healer and sacred performance artist, a national certified restorative justice trainer, a mindfulness licensed psychotherapist, a recording artist, a concert soprano vocalist whose lineage can be traced back to the great contralto Marian Anderson. So we are thrilled to have you with us tonight, and we surrender our being to the sounds that you will provide for us, Dr. Mama Ivy.
Thank you so very much. We want to invite you into this space of the song that I call Let There Be Light. Let there be light. God created the heavens
The incomparable Dr. Mama Ivy. Can't you just feel the blessing coming through the Zoom waves into all of our hearts? And can you please introduce the wonderful horn player who's been accompanying you?
Yes, indeed. This is who I call Brother Odu. Brother O. And he is a very powerful, powerful healer with his sound and his heart and a beautiful spirit.
Thank you. Thank you both. And in the chat, we have, wow, that's exactly what I needed. Thank you so much.
Brother Adal came to Om Shanti Village tonight, and I'm very grateful to him for coming and sharing and being a part of this experience. He has small children at home, and so he's feeling very, very connected to his family, but he also feels very, very connected to this family of evolutionary leaders of healing. Thank you, brother.
Well, thank you, and may the blessings return to you 1,000-fold. Oh, a beautiful experience. to wrap up a beautiful evening. We were nourished in our minds and in our hearts and in our spirits. And we had this wonderful team, Trish Wright and Omashar, and all of these wonderful evolutionary leaders presenting. And this is Dr. Mama Ivy's website. And what is the URL for people to find her?
The URL is drivysoundspa.com. drivysoundspa.com.
Take a bath in the sound spa and come out refreshed and renewed.
About what we're finding on the website.
Yes, this is what you're looking at now is a new EP that I have that has been released, and we're going to do a global release very soon. It's entitled Frequency of Love. And it's a series of 5 sonic meditations that are designed for healing the heart, the mind, and the spirit. And I call it sound vibronics and sonic mind streaming. The whole idea of sonic mind streaming is being able to pull in those thoughts and those ideas and those words that create emotional wellness and healing. Using the singing crystal bowls, instruments from all over the world, and my voice with meditation and yoga nidra techniques.
Yes.
And what you're seeing now is pictures or a picture of the sound spa. And we go around with pop-up sound spas, giving meditations wherever they will have me.
Oh, great.
And right now, if you do go to my website and you'll see where there is an app, the Sonic Mind Streaming Emotional Wellness app. And it's free for you right now. And I'm testing it out and I'm asking people to, if you go up to the top and click, I think it's there somewhere. Oh yeah, there it is.
Here.
Yes.
Oh, let's get this app. We all need it in our stressful
Put it
world.
right on your phone. Put it right on your phone.
Put it right on your phone and you can have Dr. Ivy in your pocket.
You can also buy this music on Bandcamp, Dr. Ivy Shadia Bandcamp.com, and download it onto your phone.
What a gift. All right, we can get a free app of Dr. Ivy. So buy her music too to support her, please. And speaking of supporting people, those of you who are watching on Facebook, you are encouraged to go to globalpeacetribe.com and register and sign up and support Scott Katamas and his beautiful work that he does, bringing extraordinary people together weekend after weekend after weekend. It is a very special mission that he has to uplift all of us every week. And it's been a joy to be together with you, the Global Peace Tribe.
And so without further ado, tomorrow morning at 10, we have Sacred Sunday.
Just go in there.
I knew that, but I was just going to bring in before we have, Scott and I have been invited to play and talk at the opening of Sri and Kira from Ecuador, the folks down there. So at 10 o'clock Pacific time, he and I are going to be on their show, and then, no, actually 9 o'clock, and then 10 o'clock we'll be on Sacred Sunday.
Oh, so can you put that in the chat?
Well, just go on to Facebook onto Global Peace Tribe, and it's advertised on there.
And there it is.
And there it is.
Okay, so that's going to be very special tomorrow morning. And then after that, you have the Sunday morning show continuing on this theme of calling in Team Light. And your host tomorrow morning will be one of my favorite people on the planet, Kristen Hoffman, my beautiful soul daughter. And she and Keishi Chai are members of the Evolutionary Leaders Circle, and they started what we call synergy circles. They started one for artists called Artists Catalyzing Evolution, ACE. And so you're going to see and hear members of that synergy circle tomorrow morning. Scott Katamas will be back. Kristen will be co-hosting, and the guests will be Keishi, all evolutionary leaders. Keishi Chai, Lisa Witter, Kara Stonehouse, Dr. Mama Ivy will be back, and Kwajo Spiri from Ghana. So it's going to be a very special and soul-stirring Sunday morning. So please come back. Trish, do you have any words of farewell this evening?
Well, thank you all so much for showing up and offering your support through presence and time. Your time here with us, shared with us, is so precious and valuable. And thank you to all the evolutionary leaders who have devoted and committed their time, their energy, and their life to bringing this work into the world, to bringing their love and their heart and their intellect into this world so that we all can collaborate and really negotiate reality together. So thank you to all of our amazing evolutionary leaders, and Mama Ivy, thank you, and Robert Atkinson and Deborah, thank you so much for your time. And you know what? I just want to give a loving shout out to Omashar for just doing the best that you can. And I think it's really amazing. So thank you for pulling Scott's weight. And I think that, it is true, the three of us pull one beautiful special man's weight, because he's amazing. So twinkling Scott.
Yeah, we're all grateful to Scott.
Thank you, Scott.
And in the chat, they are all reminding everybody in the United States, don't forget to turn your clocks back so that you catch the Sunday morning goodies at the right time.
Yeah, so is the clock's back tonight?
Yes. Here in Mexico, we did it 2 weeks ago, so I'm so happy that the United States is catching up. Thank you, everybody, for a beautiful show. Thank you for coming together and truly demonstrating the awakening world. Good night.
Namaste.